everyone, in a world that never stops talking, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. While everyone's busy showing off their highlight reel, chasing noise and seeking validation, there's something extraordinary about the person who chooses to stay quiet and focus inward. Because true growth, it doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in silence. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand you and start investing that energy into becoming who you were meant to be. Today, I'm here to talk about a mindset shift, a powerful one. One that says, you don't need to announce every move. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. All you need to do is focus on yourself and stay silent. Let's dive in. Silence is often misunderstood in today's fast-paced world. We live in a society that celebrates constant action, noise, and visibility. Social media rewards the loudest voices and the most prominent personalities. People are constantly seeking validation through external means, whether it's through followers, likes, or public recognition. But in the midst of this frenzy, silence stands as a quiet yet powerful force, one that many overlook or dismiss. To some, silence may appear to be a sign of weakness, a lack of engagement or involvement. But in truth, it is often a symbol of strength and purpose. When we think of strength, we usually envision loud declarations, strong actions, and bold movements. Strength is often portrayed in the form of extroversion, outgoing personalities, and overt displays of confidence. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it can be difficult to accept that silence, in its purest form, can be just as powerful, if not more. Silence, when chosen consciously, is not about retreating from the world. It's about reclaiming control of our thoughts, our emotions, and ultimately, our lives. First and foremost, silence allows us to tune into ourselves. In a world full of distractions, it can be easy to forget who we truly are. When we are constantly bombarded with the opinions, voices, and expectations of others, it becomes nearly impossible to hear our own inner voice. Silence creates space for self-reflection, for introspection, and for understanding our true desires and needs. In that quiet space, we can better understand what truly matters to us, rather than getting lost in the noise of external expectations. We often seek validation from others, hoping that their opinions will affirm our worth. But relying on external validation is a fragile foundation for building self-esteem. It's a never-ending cycle, one that's dependent on the whims of others. Silence, however, removes this dependency. It allows us to trust ourselves, to build confidence from within, and to make decisions based on our own values, not the fluctuating opinions of others. When we stop seeking approval from outside sources, we start to see our own strength. We stop allowing the noise of the world to drown out the clarity of our inner thoughts. There is also strength in the ability to remain calm and composed in situations that would otherwise provoke a reaction. People often confuse silence with submission, thinking that staying quiet means being passive or powerless. In reality, silence can be a powerful response. In reality, silence can be a powerful response, especially in challenging or emotionally charged situations. When faced with conflict, the ability to stay silent rather than react impulsively is a sign of emotional intelligence and self-control. It's easy to get caught up in heated arguments or to feel the urge to respond immediately to every criticism or provocation. But silence, when chosen deliberately, can allow us to pause, reflect, and respond with intention rather than emotion. Furthermore, silence enables us to observe the world around us more clearly. In a world that's constantly rushing, it's easy to miss important details. By staying silent and observing, we can gain a deeper understanding of our surroundings and the people we interact with. In silence, we can listen not just to what people are saying, but to what they're not saying. We can pick up on subtle cues, body language, and emotions that would otherwise go unnoticed in the noise of daily life. This ability to observe quietly gives us a unique perspective and insight into situations, allowing us to make more informed decisions. Another powerful aspect of silence is its ability to enhance our creativity. In today's world, we're often taught that the more we do, the more we accomplish. We fill our schedules with activities, meetings, and to-do lists, believing that staying busy is synonymous with being productive. However, creativity often requires space to breathe. It needs time to marinate, to grow, and to evolve. Silence creates that space. When we stop the constant barrage of tasks and distractions, our minds have room to wander, to think freely, and to explore new ideas. In the quiet moments, we may have our most profound insights and moments of inspiration. Silence also allows us to preserve our energy. We expend a great deal of energy in our interactions with others, whether it's through conversation, socializing, or even just listening. While these interactions can be rewarding and fulfilling, they can also drain us, especially if we're constantly engaging with people or responding to external demands. Choosing silence at times is a form of self-preservation. It allows us to conserve our mental and emotional resources, ensuring that we can focus on what truly matters to us. When we are selective about when and where we invest our energy, we can become more intentional in our actions and more effective in our pursuits. In addition to these personal benefits, silence can also be an act of resistance. In a world that often demands conformity, silence can be a way of resisting the pressure to fit in or follow the crowd. It's easy to get swept up in the expectations of others or to feel compelled to speak out on every issue. But silence can be a powerful way of signaling that you're not interested in participating in the noise. It can be a quiet rebellion, a way of asserting your individuality and your right to not be part of the constant chatter. In choosing silence, you take a stand, whether consciously or unconsciously, against the forces that seek to pull you in different directions. Silence also has the power to deepen our relationships. In an age where people often feel the need to fill every moment with conversation, the most meaningful connections can sometimes be made in the quiet moments. When we're comfortable sitting in silence with someone, it speaks volumes about the depth of our relationship. It's not about filling the air with words, but about being present in the moment, simply sharing space and time with another person. This shared silence can create an unspoken bond, one that goes beyond words and reflects a deeper understanding and connection. Moreover, silence can be an essential tool in setting boundaries. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it's easy to get caught up in the needs and wants of others. People may expect us to respond immediately to messages, attend every event, or be available at all times. But silence gives us the ability to set clear boundaries, to say no without explanation, and to prioritize our own well-being. When we stay silent, we're not necessarily rejecting others, but rather protecting our own peace. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, and silence is often the best way to enforce those boundaries. The strength found in silence also comes from its ability to ground us in the present moment. In a world that's always looking ahead or dwelling on the past, silence allows us to fully immerse ourselves in the here and now. It brings us back to the present, where we can focus on our breath, our thoughts, and our surroundings. In silence, we can find clarity and peace, free from the distractions that pull us away from the present. It's in this present moment that we find our true power, our true strength. Ultimately, silence is a form of self-care and self-respect. It's about taking the time to care for our minds, bodies, and souls, without the constant pressure to perform or please others. It's about embracing stillness, knowing that in that space, we can reconnect with ourselves and recenter our lives. It's in silence that we often find our true voice, one that is not shaped by the opinions or expectations of others, but by our own inner wisdom. In conclusion, silence is not a sign of weakness. It's a symbol of strength. It's a tool that can help us connect with our true selves, preserve our energy, and gain clarity in a world full of distractions. Silence allows us to observe, reflect, and respond with intention. It gives us the power to resist the noise and the pressure to conform. It helps us build deeper relationships, set boundaries, and live more fully in the present moment. In a world that constantly demands our attention, silence is a quiet rebellion, a form of self-preservation, and a source of immense strength. Your energy belongs to your growth, not their opinions. It's a quiet but radical act of self-preservation to choose yourself in a world constantly urging you to outsource your worth. Every day, in subtle and not so subtle ways, people attempt to shape how you see yourself. Through expectations, unsolicited advice, passive-aggressive comments, praise loaded with ulterior motives, and criticisms that sting longer than they should. It's tempting to contort your path to fit these voices, to water yourself down for approval, to adjust your rhythm just to stay in harmony with noise that doesn't even belong to you. But all of that requires energy. And that energy is the very fuel that should be poured back into your own expansion. When you wake up in the morning, your mental, emotional, and physical bandwidth is finite. It's like currency. You can spend it reacting to other people's judgments, or you can invest it in becoming more of who you are. The tricky part is that those opinions often arrive cloaked in love or concern. Are you sure that's a good idea? People like us don't do that. That's not really practical. And before you know it, you're shrinking to make room for someone else's fear. You start second-guessing your instincts, doubting your decisions, and seeking validation from people who don't even fully see you. They're looking at a version of you that's palatable to their worldview, not the real, evolving, wildly complex you. The moment you begin performing for that validation, you've started leaking energy that could be channeled into your healing, your learning, your craft, your peace, your joy. Imagine what could shift if all that energy currently caught up in overthinking what someone else might say, think, or post about you was redirected inward. Instead of spiraling over how to explain your choices to people who won't understand them anyway, you sit in silence and listen to your own gut. Instead of replaying conversations where you felt misunderstood, you use that time to write, to walk, to build, to breathe. Instead of living in your head, you come back into your body. There's something deeply powerful about reclaiming that focus, that intention. It's like closing 1,000 tabs in your mind and finally having the clarity to hear your own voice without the static. Opinions, especially from those close to us, can carry the weight of emotional history. You may have grown up being praised for compliance, rewarded for fitting in, conditioned to seek external affirmation before making a move. But growth isn't about fitting in, it's about unfolding. It's messy and non-linear. It's stepping into the unfamiliar with shaky legs and uncertain steps. People who are uncomfortable with their own transformation often feel threatened by yours. So when you start changing, speaking differently, dressing differently, choosing differently, they project their discomfort onto you. That projection isn't your burden to carry. The more you absorb it, the more you internalize stories that never belong to you. Suddenly, you're living a narrative written by someone else, acting out chapters you didn't choose, and wondering why you feel disconnected from your own life. Your energy is sacred. It animates your dreams, sustains your goals, nurtures your well-being. It's the fire that burns quietly behind the scenes, keeping you going on days when no one is watching. It's the resilience you build in solitude, the confidence that grows in moments of uncertainty. When you hand it over to others through the endless loop of comparison, approval seeking, and defensive living, you dilute that fire. The light dims, the path blurs. You end up prioritizing perceptions over purpose. But the truth is, no one's opinion has ever built anything meaningful in your life. Opinions didn't stay up late learning that new skill. Opinions didn't weather your anxiety, your heartbreak, your loneliness. Opinions didn't take risks for you or believe in your vision when it was still fragile. You did. There's a quiet liberation in realizing that you don't owe anyone an explanation for your healing, your growth, your timing, your style, or your boundaries. People will always talk. They'll interpret your silence. They'll dissect your changes. They'll fill in the blanks with assumptions, but they're not living your life. They're not in your body, carrying your history, your wounds, your aspirations. And so their judgments, no matter how loud or persistent, don't deserve the final say. What deserves that energy is the version of you that's still becoming. The one who dares to dream a little bigger, even if it makes others uncomfortable. The one who keeps showing up even when it's hard. The one who knows that growing means letting go of people, patterns, personas that once felt safe but now feel limiting. Letting go of needing to be understood is a form of freedom. It doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop sacrificing your evolution to appease their comfort zones. It means understanding that alignment sometimes looks like solitude. That outgrowing environment, friendships, and even parts of yourself is part of the journey. That peace doesn't always come from being liked. It often comes from being honest. And honesty, when practiced consistently, reclaims your power. It tells the world, I am here, not to be what you need me to be, but to be who I truly am. That kind of presence requires stamina, and stamina requires energy. You don't get to that level of groundedness by watering yourself down for the sake of harmony. And let's not pretend it's easy. Choosing growth over approval is often a daily decision. It's uncomfortable, especially when it means disappointing people you care about, when it means setting boundaries that get labeled as selfish, when it means walking away from dynamics where your shrinking was rewarded. But the discomfort of honoring your truth is nothing compared to the quiet agony of self-betrayal. Every time you silence your intuition to accommodate someone else's comforts, you chip away at your own foundation. And eventually, the weight of that false life becomes too heavy to carry. You begin to realize that peace doesn't come from being agreeable, it comes from being aligned. Reclaiming your energy also means learning to observe rather than absorb. Not every opinion needs a response. Not every critique deserves your explanation. Sometimes people speak from their own unhealed places, their own projections. If you absorb all of it, you're turning your soul into a sponge for someone else's unfinished business. But when you observe, when you let it pass through without clinging to it, you keep your energy clean. You stay in your lane. You remember that not everything needs to be processed or fixed. Some things just need to be released. There's also a kind of emotional maturity in knowing which feedback is constructive and which is just noise. Growth doesn't mean ignoring everyone. It means discerning wisely. You can be open to growth without being open to every opinion. Some people offer insights that sharpen you. Others simply want to keep you small. It takes clarity to tell the difference, and that clarity comes from being rooted in your own self-awareness. When you know what you're building, what you value, and what you're healing from, you become less reactive and more intentional. You don't have to defend your choices, you just have to keep choosing them. In a society that thrives on reaction, on spectacle, on overexposure, protecting your energy is a revolutionary act. It means choosing stillness when everyone else is screaming. It means choosing depth over performance. It means turning inward when the world demands that you constantly explain yourself. It's about realizing that your inner peace isn't up for debate. You don't have to prove your growth. You don't have to broadcast your evolution. Sometimes the most profound transformations happen quietly, away from the eyes of those who wouldn't understand it anyway. Your growth might make some people uncomfortable. That's okay. You weren't born to live in the box someone else built for you. You weren't designed to repeat their patterns just because it keeps the peace. You have your own timeline, your own lessons, your own purpose. The more you honor that, the less you need external permission to move forward. The more you invest in your healing, your expansion, your joy, the more you realize that every ounce of energy spent trying to be understood was energy you could have used to evolve. And evolution, real and messy as it is, demands your full presence, not your performance. Move in private, win in public is a phrase that embodies a deep philosophy of success, discipline, and resilience. It suggests that the most significant achievements are often born in silence, nurtured away from the limelight, and cultivated in solitude. The phrase doesn't just speak to secrecy for secrecy's sake, it speaks to intentional privacy, the kind that protects dreams, ideas, and goals from premature scrutiny, doubt, and distraction. In a culture obsessed with broadcasting every move, documenting every milestone, and sharing every thought, the idea of working quietly may seem counterintuitive. Yet history and personal experience show that the most powerful transformations happen when no one is watching. To move in private is to commit to your journey without the need for applause. It means training when no one is cheering, planning when no one is asking, and building when no one is watching. It's the early mornings, the late nights, the skipped parties, and the sacrifices made without announcing them. This kind of movement is rooted in purpose rather than performance. When you move in private, you're not driven by how it looks, but by how much it matters. Your focus shifts from external validation to internal satisfaction. And that switch alone can change the trajectory of your life. Privacy breeds clarity. When you're not performing for others, you're better able to hear your own voice. You're not distracted by what's trending, by what others expect, or by what you think will be liked. You're able to sit with your ideas, test them, refine them, and execute without pressure. You give yourself space to fail without judgment, to learn without comparison. You understand that progress isn't always linear, and that missteps are part of the growth process. And because you're not broadcasting every failure, you're not discouraged by feedback you didn't ask for. It's not that public support is bad, it can be incredibly uplifting. But the early stages of a goal are often too fragile to withstand too much attention. When you're just getting started, external input can cloud your direction. Every opinion can feel like a push or pull, making it difficult to know what's truly yours. That's why moving in private is so powerful. It gives you the room to solidify your vision before sharing it with the world. It ensures your foundation is strong enough to withstand public scrutiny when it inevitably arrives. There's also a psychological edge in working quietly. When no one knows what you're doing, there's no pressure to impress anyone but yourself. That kind of solitude can fuel a different level of motivation, one that doesn't run out the moment praise fades or criticism appears. You're not working for likes, retweets, or comments. You're working for results. And because your results are the only thing that matters, you learn to optimize your time, your energy, and your mindset. You start to value consistency over intensity, discipline over hype, and patience over urgency. Private movement is where character is forged. It's where you train your mind to push past resistance, to stay committed when excitement wears off, and to keep going when results are slow. This is the space where you develop mental toughness, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness. All the inner work that no one sees, the self-doubt you overcome, the fears you face, the temptations you resist, becomes the armor that protects you when your success finally becomes visible. Winning in public isn't just about the result, it's about the strength you built behind the scenes. Winning in public is the culmination of that hidden labor. It's the moment your work speaks for itself. There's a special kind of power in revealing results that no one saw coming, especially when the path was long and lonely. That win hits different, not because it surprises others, but because it validates your process. People see the win, but they don't always see the cost. They might see the promotion, the business launch, the body transformation, or the book release. But they won't see the mornings you didn't want to get out of bed, the weekends you spent studying, or the countless drafts you threw away. And that's okay. They're not supposed to see it all. That's part of the power. When you win in public after moving in private, the outcome feels earned. It's not a product of chance, hype, or trend. It's the result of sustained effort and quiet dedication. People may call it overnight success, but you'll know better. You'll know about the nights you stayed up questioning whether it would ever happen. You'll remember the rejections, the failures, the setbacks. And because you walk that path alone, you'll appreciate the win in a way that no one else can. It also becomes easier to sustain success when it's built in silence. Public wins attract attention, and attention can bring pressure, envy, and even sabotage. But if your roots are deep, if your discipline is real, your intentions are clear, and your foundation is solid, you won't be easily shaken. You won't need to rely on external support to keep going, because you've already proven to yourself that you can go it alone. That's the gift of moving in private. It doesn't just prepare you for the win, it prepares you for everything that comes after it. Moreover, when you keep your movements private, you stay in control of your narrative. You decide what parts of your story to share, when to share them, and how to present them. This control protects your energy, your mental health, and your creative space. In a world where oversharing is normalized, choosing what to keep sacred becomes a form of power. You don't owe the world a play-by-play of your process. Your value is not determined by how often you post your grind. The real ones know. The most impactful moves are often made in silence. That's not to say there's no value in community, support, or collaboration. There absolutely is. But there's a difference between strategic collaboration and public performance. The former helps you grow, the latter distracts you from growth. When you collaborate with intention, it enhances your mission. When you perform for attention, it dilutes your purpose. Moving in private allows you to discern the difference. In a society where everyone's trying to go viral, the quiet worker becomes a rarity. But rare doesn't mean wrong. In fact, some of the most influential people in history operated from the shadows for years before anyone recognized their brilliance. Artists, entrepreneurs, scientists, athletes. Many of them spent decades refining their skills before they ever got their shine. They weren't concerned with being seen. They were focused on being ready. And when their moment came, they didn't just take the spotlight, they owned it. The digital age has made it increasingly difficult to move in private. Algorithms reward constant output, and it can feel like silence equals irrelevance. But that's only true if your goal is attention. If your goal is mastery, creation, or impact, then silence is your superpower. It gives you the space to build something worth sharing. It lets you grow without the burden of being perceived. It allows you to live and work with depth, rather than just surface-level visibility. Silence also gives you room to pivot without judgment. When your process is public, every change invites commentary. But when you're quiet, you're free to experiment, to explore, and to evolve. You're not tied to anyone's expectations. You can start over, shift gears, or abandon an idea altogether without feeling like you've failed in front of an audience. This kind of freedom is crucial for true innovation. It's where creativity flourishes and authenticity thrives. At its core, moving in private is about honoring the sacredness of your process. It's about treating your dreams like seeds, watering them, nurturing them, protecting them, before expecting them to bloom. And when they do bloom, the beauty is undeniable, because it's not just a result, it's a revelation. The win becomes a statement not just of what you achieved, but of who you became while no one was watching.